Shea, thanks for the time as always, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, as always, my friend.
Dude, it's our pleasure, and I know this is kind of the crunch time, so we'll talk numbers here in a second. But let's first start with the two guys that verbally committed over the weekend. We'll start with Alex Adams. So what can you tell us about this wide receiver out of Mississippi?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy last summer at camp, and he came a couple of times to camp last year and worked out in a few different sessions trying to pick up an offer, and he got one. But if you'll remember at the time, LSU had Raheem Jarrett and Jermaine Burton both committed, both 5 stars at the time, and had been on board since about April, I believe it was, late April, early May. But point being, they had 2 guys committed, and they were going in Keishawn Butte as well, obviously from in-state. And they were going after Coy Moore, who was going to commit over the summer. He eventually committed in August, and that gave them 4 receivers. So they didn't really need any more, and because of that, they didn't press Adams, but they sort of kept things warm. And I think as soon as we saw Burton and Jarrett flip on him in the 11th hour, I mean, it was on signing day in the early signing period where both those guys flipped to Georgia and Maryland and left LSU with just their 2 in-state signees. So Mickey Joseph sort of said, all right, I've been talking to this Alex Adams kid all along. We really liked him at camp. He had a really good senior season, and let's make a move on him. And they got back in at just the right time because it was in between Mississippi State. Obviously, Moorhead had been let go, or it was leaving, let go, and then the hire of sorry, my dog went crazy there.
It's all good, man. He's fired up.
Yeah, fired up for all this news today. And then the hire of Mike Leach. Mike Leach went hard after Alex Adams, trying to get him back. He was supposed to be going to state this weekend for an official visit and look at kind of how things fit there. But he told me he got down to LSU. His parents loved the vibe of everything. He had always wanted to go to LSU, but wasn't sure if it was going to work out with the numbers. And it played in his favor. And they're getting a kid who had over 1,000 yards of production as a senior. I mean, he runs track for South Pike, and last year he ran a sub 1,100-meter dash. I think it was about in the 10.7s, which is really fast. He'll be even better as a senior. And you look at kind of what you've done across multi-sports as a receiver, and I like this ad, especially at this point in the game when there's not a lot of guys out there. It sort of shows what college coaches have to do in terms of, even if you think, if you're Mickey Joseph, I've got my 4 guys, we're done, that you've got to keep guys warm all along, because until the pen hits the paper, nothing's official. And because of that, and losing those 2 guys, it set them up perfectly to get in on Alex Adams.
So the other prospect now that committed is Kevontre Bradford, running back out of the state of Texas. First of all, a thumbnail on this situation, if you would, Shea.
I mean, this one, talking about scoring late in the game, Bradford is the perfect example, because early on, and you can go back to last spring, they were swinging for the fences. They knew they had signed Ty Davis-Price and John Emery. I don't think they knew Clyde Edwards would have the year he would have and go pro, obviously, but they felt good about having 4 running backs on roster. So if we miss on these guys, all right, let's go for the home run. And obviously we saw what happened with Evans. He's still unsigned at this point. He signed with Georgia and then backed out of it, and people think he might end up back at Georgia. But when all that happened in December, LSU said, look, we'll wipe our hands clean of that situation and let's move on. And they had been recruiting Kevontre Bradford all along, sort of like Alex Adams, keeping him warm in case they needed to make a move. And then they ended up, like I said, in December, just saying, look, Evans, we're done with. We're focused kind of on Kevontre Bradford and Jameer Gibbs, another kid. And ultimately they got Bradford onto campus this weekend and landed his commitment. And Matt, he's number 137 player in the country, number 14 running back in the country. That's a perfect addition at this stage in the game when there aren't a lot of guys left. And he had offers from everybody, Bama, Ohio State, all these teams. But because he sort of focused on his senior year and said, I won't deal with recruiting until January, teams started to fill up. And boy, I don't want to say fell into LSU's lap, but it worked out, I'd say, perfect for both sides.
So what does this mean about for Evans? I mean, this is the obvious question everybody's going to ask, right? I mean, does this mean LSU's out for Evans?
Yes, and they've been done there for a little bit. I mean,
okay.
It wasn't. I don't think it was worth continuing to chase and then him not show up, not sign, or show up and then say, never mind, I'm leaving, like he did with Georgia within a week of signing. This was their sure thing, and Bradford wanted in. So no, I have no guess as to where Zack Evans ends up, but I am extremely confident it's not LSU.
Okay, Shea Dixon's with us. He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon. Go 247 where you can go read his stuff. All right, Shea, you know what I'm going to ask now. Numbers. 2 more commitments now after the 19 signees in January. Where is LSU right now in the class?
Well, yeah, 19 signees in January. And remember, they landed Dwight McGlothern, defensive back out of Texas, a 4-star at the All-American Bowl. So that got him to 20. These 2 guys get him 21, 22. And now you've got 23, 24, 25. So you've got 3 open spots left. And I know if you go look at their commitment list right now, you'll see some other guys, but Larondo Johnson is not someone I expect them to sign. He's got some academic stuff to work on. And Cameron Jackson, who's been committed for over a year, was teammates with Joseph Evans at Haynesville, one of LSU's freshman D linemen. He's committed, but he told me this weekend, and he made his official visit, talked over with the staff, that he's got some academic work to do in the spring. And because of that, he's not going to sign next week. So kind of the line of thinking here, Matt, is that if I signed with you next Wednesday and we're going to LSU, but I end up not qualifying, you don't get that spot back. That was a risk you took. You didn't get it. It didn't work out for you. And there's no replacing that. So what Ed Orgeron and the staff are going to do is leave that spot open, and there'll be a couple of spots in my estimation open, and you can either sign these kids once you see how they're looking in the spring, once they graduate high school and you know they're not going to JUCO, or you just say, look, if that's not working out for them, I'll go sign a grad transfer. I'll pick up a transfer. So I don't expect them to leave signing day next Wednesday with a full 25 at all. I think they'll probably have 2 open spots, let's say.
Okay. So that would certainly make it a transfer a very real possibility. The other guy that, if I don't ask about, everyone will just slaughter me, is Jordan Burch, who, just a quick backstory, of course, committed to defensive end, committed to South Carolina in December, never signed, though, and now was on LSU's campus. So what's the latest there?
Oh, my gosh, it took you so long to get to Jordan Burch. I knew you wouldn't leave it off, though.
Is that where I should
good at this.
Is that where I should have started?
No, you're doing awesome.
Okay,
I
good.
tell you every time, you get better, you're going to take my job eventually.
That will never happen.
And I have no clue how to talk by myself for 3 hours on radio. So
good. I don't want your job either, Shea. So let's just keep doing what we do well.
Yeah, I mean, Burch, remember, yes, he committed to South Carolina on ESPN and all that, but the signing window was that 3-day stretch. It was a Wednesday to Sunday, and he announced on Wednesday, well, Wednesday came and went, and he didn't sign, and fast forward to the end of the story, never signed. So what was going on with that? Why would a kid who lives 5 minutes from USC's campus, whose mother works on campus, he's committed there on signing day, why wouldn't you just turn around and sign? So clearly he didn't have kind of full confidence in wanting to go ahead and get on board with USC, or he would have done it right then. And you look at kind of what he said then, or right after, he was asked, what was the hardest school to say no to? LSU. Who finished number 2? LSU. What visit that wasn't South Carolina? When you left home, what did you like the most? LSU. Well, he never went anywhere else between committing to South Carolina and this weekend. And he shows up with his mom on campus. The visit had been kept kind of quiet, and you can only keep it quiet for so long, obviously. And everybody finds out that you've got a 5-star number 1 D lineman on campus. But he got to hang out, and unlike an official visit, which is what he took for the Auburn game, the coaches are coaching, right? Like Friday night, they're with the team. Saturday, they're spending the whole day, getting ready for the game and coaching in the game. And there's not a lot of time to really sit there and hang out with, a kid like Jordan Burch and his mom. So it was huge for them to get him back this weekend where there were no games. And they had Jaquel and Roy and Jacoby and Guillory and these other guys on campus. And you had your whole staff here, minus your defensive coordinator, obviously. But we're here recruiting and kind of able to get to know the family or Jordan's mom and Jordan a bit better. And now we'll see. Does he go visit South Carolina this coming weekend? He still has never taken an official visit there. I doubt he goes anywhere else, like outside of USC or LSU. So what do we have? It's Monday, signing day is next Wednesday. So 9 days or so to figure out what Burch really wants to do. But for me, I'm calling it a 50-50 type deal. Why not? Why would he come back here on his own dime if he wasn't somewhat interested? And obviously, Matt, between the time he last visited in October and now, LSU went on to win the SEC and win a national championship and a Heisman and have been all over his TV, I'm certain. So I think there was a reason he came back here, and I think it's because he's got some pretty sincere interest.
Shea, before we let you jump, man, time always appreciated. Walk us through the next 9 days, what it's like for LSU and their staff.
Yeah, so they're going to hit the road. They are on the road right now, everybody. At Orgeron, all of his assistants are out on the road with, now they've got Pelini. We'll see if he gets on the road, but they had Kevin Falk out there in place of Joe Brady. I'm guessing we'll now see Pelini get out on the road. I guess he'd have to be approved by the Board of Supervisors and all that, but you don't have much left here because they just hosted everybody this past weekend. They do have a few spots and are entertaining a few guys, but the two commits that we thought that they would definitely get are in Adams and Bradford from the past weekend, and really are doing a lot of kind of tying up the loose ends, making sure that those guys and McGlothern and obviously Jordan Burch, McKinley Jackson's another kid they're recruiting, are sort of good to go and have everything in line for next Wednesday, and then they'll sign them. So it shouldn't be as eventful, obviously, as December, but look, they had 19 then. We have no doubt they'll sign these other three in McGlothern and Adams and Bradford. And then I think everybody's going to sit around and be watching Jordan Burch and McKinley Jackson to see if LSU pulls it off and lands a D lineman or multiple D linemen or none late in the game.